There is a ton of excitement over the newly introduced Apple Watch Ultra, and for good reason. Alongside it, 3 all-new band types were introduced, and it's evident people are excited about this all-new generation of Apple Watches, seeing as how some of the bands, and even the watch itself, now have delivery times well into November. So it's no wonder there's a whole lot of buzz surrounding this all-new creation aimed at those individuals who take life's greatest adventures very seriously. Being marketed as a more rugged and way more durable version of the Apple Watch, the new Ultra sees a slew of new features such as a drastically bigger casing size, larger and brighter display, an action button, better health sensors, and a whole lot more. Welcome guys, I'm your host, TheJuan&Only, and I've had a couple of weeks now to playtest and get a feel for what the Ultra truly has to offer. I know many of you guys have a ton of questions surrounding this all-new rugged iteration of the Apple Watch, and unfortunately, not everyone has an Apple store nearby to truly get a feel for the watch in person. Without question, let's get the elephant out of the room. It's huge! And I know you guys found some of my prior hands-on videos quite useful, so today we're going over a quick hands-on video comparing and contrasting the differences between the new Ultra versus the Series 8, the SE second generation, and heck, why not throw the Series 8 in there as well, even though Apple officially axed it from its official product line, seeing as how I'm sure the Series 3 will still sell quite well this holiday season from third-party sellers, wanting to get rid of some stock. Aside from looking at the external differences between sizes, some of you guys have asked if the finish is the same when comparing it to some of the earlier titanium edition Apple Watches. So we'll take a closer look at that as well, and answer some commonly asked questions about the Ultra, such as, do earlier bands fit the new Ultra? Do the new Trail Loops, Ocean Bands, and Alpine Loops fit other non-Ultra models? Are the smaller 38, 40, and 41mm watches and bands compatible? All of that will be answered plus more, so before we roll that intro, I want to invite anyone who finds this video useful to click that red subscribe button, as later this year I will be releasing a ton of content for you all, so you become a more well-informed consumer, especially considering that the Ultra starts at $800. You're almost nearing $1,000 after tax, for heaven's sake. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road. Alright, ladies and gents, if you haven't seen my unboxing video for the Ultra, I invite you to click the card at the top right or click the link in the video description, and my official in-depth review is gonna drop real soon. I just want to give you guys an honest review, and for that, I normally like to have and use my products for a couple of weeks before dropping my official thoughts and opinions on you guys. So anyway, let's start with sizing. As I mentioned earlier, the watch is massive, and I consider myself as having smaller than average wrists for a guy, and sometimes I think to myself, damn, do I look like goddamn Ben 10 with this massive Ultra on my wrist? Just so you know where I'm coming from, I prefer to order the small and medium sport bands, and I normally wear the sport bands on the hole that's right in the middle. Since it's symmetrical, that'd be the 4th hole from both the top and bottom. Like, listen, hear me out. The huge display is cool and all, but sometimes it does get in the way. Like for example, sometimes while squatting at the gym and while holding the bar behind my head, the watch is so big and cumbersome that very frequently my hand accidentally presses the side button long enough for the little siren to ring, letting me know that emergency services will soon be called. Cause you know, that's a feature on Apple Watches. And so then I'm forced to take the Ultra off to comfortably squat in peace. But then that kind of defeats the purpose of an Apple Watch, as I wanted to track my entire workout. Size-wise, here it is compared to the Series 8 watch and also the 2nd Gen SE, and as you can see, the casing on the Series 8 and the SE 2nd Gen are almost identical, with the truest differentiating factor being their screen sizes. So here's the rundown. The Ultra only comes in one size, that being the 49mm case, while the larger variant of the Series 8 measures in at 45mm, and the SE has a screen size of 44mm on its largest variant. On the Series 3, that gets toned down all the way to 42mm for the larger size, and the differences here versus the Ultra are massive. It's almost comical. Look at those massive borders on the Series 3, like who did that? Tim Apple, come on now. But as you can clearly see, the Apple Watch Ultra has this noticeable border or bezel around its perimeter. And why do you think that is? I can wager a ton of money that this was intentional by Tim Apple and the design team, because just watch. When the Ultra 2 or even the Ultra 3 comes out, Apple will tout enlarging the display to something like a 50 or 51 millimeter and eliminating those bezels a bit more as a highlight feature later on down the road. Mark my words. As a result, yes, the display is bigger, but it doesn't reach its full potential and actually more or less appears to have just a slightly larger active display area as the Series 8, only appearing slightly taller in terms of screen real estate, but that's about it. The display thankfully isn't always on display, just like the Series 8, but gets noticeably brighter while outdoors, being able to reach a max brightness of 2000 nits versus just 1000 nits on the Series 8 and SE 2nd gen. In terms of weight though, it may appear that the massive Ultra is heavy and lunky, but it's not. It more or less is in line with the weight of a stainless steel Series 8, only being just slightly heavier. Officially, according to Apple, the Ultra weighs in at 61 grams, while the aluminum variants of the Series 8, including the SE 2nd gen, weigh in at roughly about 39 grams, while the stainless steel versions of the Series 8 come in at 51.5 grams. So yeah, it's not overly heavy, which is a good thing. And while on the topic of sizing, let's go over band compatibility. So before its release, there were rumors surfacing that prior generation bands may not be compatible with the all-new Ultra. These rumors have thankfully dissipated as they were untrue. So like here, check this out. All the 3 new style of bands were designed to be used on the new Ultra. However, they are still compatible on prior models so long as it's the larger variant of Apple Watches, meaning the smaller 38, 40, and 41 millimeter Apple Watch owners don't get the same treatment as those with the 42, 44, or 45 millimeter casing size and have been excluded here. Take a look at how the new Alpine loops look and feel on the new Series 8. As you can see, the fit is nearly perfect with almost zero intrusions to the design. The band fits in clean and don't have any parts of the band lugs protruding out or anything. But now, let's look at a 38 millimeter band on the Ultra, and as you can see, yeah, it's not gonna cut it. It simply isn't compatible, and I wouldn't recommend attaching the smaller casing size bands on the Ultra. But now, what about vice versa? How do old bands fit on the Ultra? Well, good news for you, since I'm a bandaholic, I got a variety of watch band styles, and literally almost every single style fits and looks great on the new Ultra. From older discontinued styles such as the woven nylon, even the sport bands, the link bracelet, and everything in between, everything fits in just right and they sit real flush with the overall design of the Ultra. And so finally, going over to the finish of the Ultra, and unfortunately, we get a very, very limited selection of color options, seeing as we only have one singular choice to choose from, and that's titanium. Apple has released titanium watches before, including space black titanium, which is an awesome color by the way, but has solely reserved them as their edition line, and here I have my old Series 7 edition in titanium. More or less, the finish is pretty much the same, although I tend to think the older Series 7 titanium has more of a lustrous shine to it, especially when in direct sunlight, but it's very slight. I do think the orange action button and the orange encircling the circumference of the digital crown on the new Ultra contrast heavily against the lighter titanium finish, and I think the effect is quite nice. The only downside of only offering one color option is that some band lugs may look tacky, especially those bands that feature space black stainless steel lugs, for example. For me, it used to be a huge issue seeing mismatched lugs, but over time, it doesn't really matter as much to me anymore, especially on such a massive device like this. So guys, there it is. I hope this video gave you guys a decent idea how the new Ultra compares head to head against other models, as well as seeing the color of the titanium finish compared to the earlier titanium found on the Series 7 edition Apple Watches. For me, I was quite surprised at the bezels taking up more of the screen than I initially realized. Like I said, I know Apple has the capability of stretching out that display much farther, but they chose not to because, you know, money. If you guys would like, check out my other hands-on videos on comparisons such as Starlight versus Silver and Midnight versus Space Gray. Again, cards at the top right. I still have a ton of Apple Watch Ultra content coming up real soon, including my official in-depth review, a buyer's guide, battery drain test on the current Apple Watch lineup, as well as still having a few more bands to review. Only way to not miss out is by ringing that bell notification so that you are always notified every time I drop a dank new video. Drop down some comments on future video ideas, and with that, I'm clocking out for now, but I cannot wait to catch you all in my next video.